I'm rolling. All right, well, here we are. We are back with another CCS Marketing creative collaboration number 3. Yeah, we'll see how far we get with these. I had to do some sound editing on the last one, so we'll see. We're tweaking some of these and trying to figure out how to make them better. So we'll just keep going on from there. So Chris, how are you today?
It's Friday, man.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
Yeah.
So
Well, good.
busy as usual, but I don't look at busy as a bad thing. I look at busy as being blessed.
Yeah.
Um, we made it. We're surviving.
Yeah.
We have clients. I always talk about this. We have clients that see value in what we do, so they call, they email, they say, "Hey, we need your services." So I never complain about servicing them.
Yeah. I had a client or someone that I was trying to meet rather. Actually, we've done work with them before. It's just been a while. And I was just trying to meet up with them and kind of catch up. And he was like, "Man, I'm so busy. I have to reschedule." And I'm like, "Well, good for you." You're like, yeah, like honestly, good for you. This is great. Great news.
Right.
Like I'm not at all offended. That's awesome. So I love hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The best reason not to keep a meeting with someone, in my opinion,
busy.
is to be legitimately too busy. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a good thing. So
agreed.
All right. So today's topic, I kind of want to. This one's kind of. I know that early on we had started some introductory things and diving in and branding and talking about small businesses. This one kind of maybe is a bit of a tangent just because it's something that I ran into with one of our clients. But it was a law firm and they had a client whose social media records were being subpoenaed in the discovery. And of course they're fighting against that being in the discovery because the way that you go about downloading your social media record, it's not like they wanted these posts or, it's not like they were just going on and seeing what was on their public profile and then using that information. Of course, that's one thing that's an issue. But they were subpoenaing for the records for like the last 3 to 5 years, And in that, so I had done some research and I was downloading some of the information off of Facebook, and we had looked at some Snapchat because those were the two that they were wanting. And it's very difficult to parse the data. Facebook gives you the most control over parsing the data, but it's very difficult to just download, here's the posts from this time period and hand them over. It's like packaged up. It's doable, but it takes a lot of vetting. It takes a lot of scrubbing and time because, like with Snapchat, you can't do that. You just have to take the whole history of the account, and then you have to go in and kind of delete out the ones that don't. Well, they don't want them doing that because then they don't know if they deleted something out that was, unfavorable. So that gets into another issue of whether or not it's compromised. But then I was looking at it, and there's like payment information, messaging, like we're talking about like. So much background information that's available when you download your data and then hand it over, and that's what they were asking for. And I'm concerned because this is like pure violation of privacy. Like that information should be yours, and I get it. Like if there's a legal issue and there's a case and it belongs in being discovered, you're kind of, I don't know, your privacy kind of sort of takes a backseat to getting to the bottom of some of those very important things.
So let's talk about that from both sides. I think there's one aspect we can discuss, and let's talk about social media from the marketing perspective. When we're going to say, obviously, it's been one of the greatest tools for business ever.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
But let's put that to the side for a minute, because obviously, I think everyone knows you need it. You got to have it. You may not have the right strategy, but you need it. Okay. But let's talk about it from the aspect that you just mentioned, the data, what's on there. I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and just as you have had conversations, I have had conversations where, small business owners have had success saying, hey, I don't need a website. I don't need any of this because I do everything on social media. So just to your point, that's great until something like this happens where you realize everything on there is not private. It's you're renting space on social media. Is simply what you're doing. So you don't
Ooh,
own the
that's a good way of
information
looking at
that's
it.
on Facebook. You don't own what's on Instagram. It may be your pictures, your information, but it's essentially theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So, just like what you were saying, if that information ever needs to be downloaded, you can't really stop them from, giving the information if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Or are legally
versus,
compelled to.
yeah, yeah, legally
Yeah.
compelled. Versus when information is on your website, your email database, things like that, that's yours. So, and I think one of the things that I think a lot of people need to, and again, I said we had to separate the marketing
Yeah, from the legal.
from the legal,
Of
but I
course.
think one of the things that all business owners should be savvy enough to understand is, all right, what do I own versus what is not mine?
And that's key because like say a case like this one blows up and it
Mhm.
raises awareness to this very key issue, and then Facebook says, "Oh, okay, well, in order to protect citizen or protect people, whatever, we're going to institute this policy or this change." And they've done that. They've done that recently, even with
Mhm.
Apple and the
Yep.
terms of services and conditions change, where they made people opt in instead
Yep.
of automatically opting them in. They now opted them out, but had them opt in,
Hmm.
and that was a big deal, big change. A lot of people's advertising capabilities shifted because people weren't opting in like they
Yeah.
thought they would, and
Yeah.
so they're unable to advertise to these people who are not in that data pool.
Hmm.
Something like that happens, and you've hinged all you know your betting, advertising or marketing wise, on an arena that you have no control over at the end of the
Right.
day, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
billboards you don't have any control over, television you don't have any control over, social media you don't have any control over. These are all like very popular forms of advertising and media which you don't have any control over. But
Right.
with the web being like as wide as it is and people having access in their pockets constantly, you do show
Sure.
up. Your
Sure.
website does have a presence and you do
Sure.
have control over your website. And so
Exactly.
I think that businesses, if they're not putting their website at the front of their business marketing strategy
Right.
online, they're
Right.
making a huge mistake.
Absolutely.
Um, and there
I
are
look at a website these days, it's kind of crazy. And I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
Even though a lot of times people look at the aesthetics or the what's on their content, your website is an insurance policy.
Yeah,
I mean, and sometimes it's like, well, sometimes you're like, well, I don't want to pay for this. When I don't like paying for
mm-hmm.
insurance. But
Yeah,
when do you need the insurance is when you
mm-hmm.
need the insurance.
Right.
So, and I think there are so many times when we talk about a website, I mean, it's so
Mm-hmm.
rudimentary, it's so fundamental these days. We don't even think about it that way,
Mm-hmm.
but it really is a company's insurance policy in the event these social media platforms make changes that are unfavorable to their businesses.
Yeah,
Um,
and
you
they have in the past, and I think they'll continue to do so. It's
Absolutely.
just a matter of when, not if.
Yep.
And like you said, that insurance policy, it's really about making sure that you are secure and your business is riding on something that's strongly founded. Like
Absolutely.
there are also some other platforms that are you have more control over that
Hmm.
kind of fall in the category of social media, but aren't. I mean, yeah, I guess they're considered social media, but like Discord.
Hmm.
Discord is a community that a lot of businesses haven't really caught on to yet. But
Yep.
so it's basically like a conversation platform like Skype or Zoom or some of these tools, and it emerged in the gaming industry as a way for gamers to communicate while gaming
Hmm.
in games that didn't have like voice communications built into them, which was a lot early on. More of them have that now, but not so much. And this particular platform became so robust that it offered people ways to stay on the platform aside from just their time spent in the game and build a community. And then
Yep.
they were able to communicate with each other, pass messages and memes and this and that. And then a lot of people, this is why a lot of young people aren't necessarily on things like Facebook, because the ways in which they congregate online, they're playing video games and doing other things, and they're
Right.
congregating in some of these other tools that they don't need Facebook for. But the cool thing about that is that Discord servers, you own it. You can buy and rent the server, and you can do what you want with the server. It's your server.
Hmm.
The same way
Hmm.
that you like host and plan a website, right? That's now your website. It's hosted somewhere, but it's your website. And I
Hmm.
think it's a really important thing to be aware of when you're looking at where your business is online is that what parts of the real estate, like you said, do you own? What
Yep.
parts are you renting? And what
Yep.
parts are you just there
Yep.
free at the good graces and whim of some master lord that you may not have
Right.
something in common with later?
Right. Yeah, I think that's where, everything I like to discuss, or when we're talking about education, is value. What value does this have? And like you were saying, just as in real estate, there's always value in owning, but then there's sometimes value in renting. I mean, and I think it depends on the business, but I think therein lies the conversation that most marketers should be having with their clients is, hey, let's talk about the value proposition of each of these, because there's some benefits of each, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, again, this is what we run into all the time. It's such a big convoluted space where all these things are, working hand in hand with each other, where in many cases clients say, first of all, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Secondly, I don't have the time to understand it. And some of them just don't want to understand it. They just say, look, do it. But
Yeah.
I think that's a big mistake
Sure.
if business owners or marketers or whoever's in charge of moving the business forward is not taking the time to at least understand what's going on. And
Yeah.
that part is so critical.
It is. I don't want to say it's lazy,
Yeah.
but like those things where I don't have enough information to know, or I'll figure that out later. All those kinds of things, they're kind of like kicking the can down the road until you
Yep.
can't, and
Yep.
that's the problem. So
Putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. So, if you got a big
Yeah.
hole, Band-Aid may patch it up, but
Yeah.
it's not going to solve the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and at some point, like, you just have to amputate that. Like, that's the only option left at some points. And you don't want that to be your lifeline.
That, and I mean, it's always good to bring up, kind of local or current events. So all over the news this past week, and I wanted to talk about this today.
Okay.
Is there's a local pool company that that went out of business like recently. So what happened was they were selling pool services to homeowners. Again, without going into all the details, I'm not going to give the company name. If you Google it, you'll find out who it is. But
Okay.
long story short, I mean, what they said was that because of the media encouraging homeowners or people who had purchased pool services that were delayed. I mean, there were some delays in materials and things like that.
Yeah.
They encouraged people to go to the media. They went to the media. The media had so much media coverage that on the situation that it wound up forcing the company to close.
Wow.
I mean, company been around for 10 years. They were in the middle of doing pools for people. And again, there were delays, there were some problems, but
Yeah.
So with that being the case, there in that particular situation, obviously the media, you can't control what the media is going to put out, in many cases. But what that pool company could have done is they could have told their own version of the story.
Yeah, if they had a presence to do that.
They had a presence.
Yeah.
And there was the problem. There wasn't enough of a presence on their side to push back and say, well, this is what's true and this is not what's true.
Yeah.
We forced them to close the business.
Yeah,
that's
interesting. That's very unfortunate. It reminds me of a friend of mine came and asked me his roofing company had gotten a negative review from a situation that was just like out of their control. Like a real estate agent had kind of sold the property, but told the homeowner that they were selling it to that they would fix the roof, but then they told the roofing company that the homeowner would be fixing the roof, that they were just going to do some patches. When they went to look at it, he was like, that actually needs to be replaced. And then no one wanted to take responsibility for it. And of course, the roofing company didn't want to be on the hook for something they didn't promise.
Right.
So the homeowner got mad. The real estate agent threw the roofing company under the bus. And then they went on social media and made this big post and this negative thing, and it blew up their people who had never done business with them started going into their reviews and giving them negative reviews, and it was tanking, their presence.
Right.
And he was like, well, what do you do? And I was like, they did have somewhat of a presence, and I was like, why don't you take a look at what it costs you in your marketing budget, to do this person's roof? It's like you could use your marketing budget to pay for this person's roof and then do a testimonial video afterwards that wraps up this whole debacle, and then put that on your social media presence and let them repost it as well as a part of the contract for doing the roof.
Right.
And turn this negative thing into a positive in the end outcome, and very visible in front of everyone. Do that, and he was like, that's actually a really good idea. And like, if you don't have a presence, you're not on social media doing things and responding to these things in ways, you're just dead in the water if, like you said, a media company gets a hold of you or you have no other kind of recourse. So it's really important to be on them, but it's also really important to be on them with the guidance about how to move forward. And I think that's something that's so key, because a lot of business owners or a lot of businesses don't really understand where social media is going to go in the future. And I can't perfectly predict it, but I do pretty well.
We know it's not going away. We know that.
Yeah. I do pretty well, like, guessing at what people are going to do next behavior-wise. And that's really what social media is. It's people. So it's one of those things where understanding there is something coming that you're not going to want, right? I don't know what it is. I'm not saying that because I know. I'm saying that, like, it's inevitable that someone who owns a social media platform that you're on for free is eventually going to do something that you don't want them to do. And they're going to make a change that's not in your favor. That's ultimately always going to happen. And so if you're on all of these platforms and all your eggs are in that basket, that's not necessarily good. So you need to know where your eggs should be, right? And so website's a great place, but also learning how to invest your time and efforts and resources into platforms that you have more control over is key.
Yeah, I mean, because you never want to be on the back end of that conversation, because I mean, an unhappy customer or unhappy customers, and that puts you out of business. I mean, nobody wins. Nobody wins in that shit. Customer doesn't get what they want.
Right.
You're a business owner, you have to fire employees. You can't move forward. So no one wins. Yeah. So it's always about being, and I know, again, it sounds very cliche. It's about being proactive versus reactive.
Yeah.
And taking the time to understand, what did we talk about last week? What affects what? I mean, so, and again, I think that becomes so important as an owner or a marketer to understand, how do these things work together? Again, not all platforms are going to be right for all businesses, but understanding the ones that are right and figuring out, hey, how do I use them and how do I protect myself? What do I own? What do I rent? And what do I do with the rest?
Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit earlier about value. I hope that whoever's watching this has gotten some value out of it. I know that the two of us could nerd out and talk about these things all day long, is kind of peeling the curtain back on the things that we see in our industry. And I just hope that that's beneficial to someone. And that's kind of why we do these things. We give this information away for free, just so that other people can have it and benefit from it if they're, willing to sit through it at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Try to keep it as painless and as high level as possible. I mean, without going into all the nitty gritty of what we actually do. But and these are things, again, what we always try to do is tell people there's a lot of stuff that's free. It's totally free. You can go research it. Now, you might have to pay an expert like us to come in and actually implement the strategy, but the information that we're giving away is free. I mean, you can go find this on your own. It's just what to do with it and how do you execute it. We consider ourselves more accountability partners than anything. Are you doing these things? Are you doing that?
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it up. How are we doing this one the same way we did the last one? Stage left. Wait, this way. Wait. 1, 2, 3. Oh.
I can't like zoom.
Which way are you
in the screen? So no. But, like, without falling out of my chair, I'm still in the can. So
all right. Well,
happy Friday. Have a good day. All of that good stuff. Yeah.
All right. Peace.